How about now?
Your mic from your computer.
Okay, I see David's thumbs up, so we're good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Do you hear me speaking? Picking up from your.
All right, can you hear me? No. David, can you hear me? Yes, okay. All right, thank you.
It's just the lead on. And then one of these unless I know. Old school. Yeah.
All right, and it looks like we do have a quorum in the room.
Okay, so let's get started. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll start with item 1, which is call to order and introductions. And my name is Stephen Schmitz. I'm with the Sonoma County Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
JP Harris with the city of Cotati.
I'm Jason San Pietro at the City of Lawrence Park. Alexander Oseguera, City of Santa Rosa. Michael Harrigan with the City of Hillsborough.
John Richburg, City of Sonoma, filling in for Ken.
Joe Morgan from Sonoma County Bike and Pedestrian Committee.
Kurt Bates, City of Hillsborough.
Dana Trey at CTA.
Tanya Narath, RCPA.
Chris Barney, CTA.
And then
Gabriel for the SCTA.
Christina Panza, SCBC and Safe Routes to School.
This is Orlando Ramirez with Caltrans District 4.
Emily Chardon, also Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
And Ross Clendon, SCTA, RCPA.
Chris Gunther with Bikeable Santa Rosa.
okay, I think that's everybody online. We just had someone else walk in. If you wanted to introduce yourself. Okay,
How do you guys see it from SCTA?
okay, thank you. So item 2 is roll call and teleconference disclosures.
Since we do have a quorum in the room, we do not need to go through that. Is that correct, Joe? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item 3 is public comment on items not on the regular agenda. So anyone here or online who would like to make comments not on the agenda?
I have a question. I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Okay, Emily.
Hi, this is Emily. And I'm the advocacy coordinator for the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. I had a question about something that's come up a couple of times at meetings before, and that is around the citizen representatives to this committee. I think it was noted at a meeting in the past that several jurisdictions actually don't have a citizen representative. That position is vacant. And I know the Petaluma PBAC has had some discussions recently about filling theirs. I'm just curious if any of the other jurisdictions have had similar conversations or have made any attempts to seek applicants.
So if I could, just a reminder to all of the jurisdiction staff that are here, that one citizen member can be appointed by each jurisdiction to sit on this committee. We do have one, Joe, the citizen rep for the county, and I believe that Roanoke Park has a citizen rep who's not present, but I think that those are the only two that are filled right now. So that is an option for jurisdictions to appoint a citizen representative for this committee.
And Dana, would citizen rep, would they be a voting member?
Yes,
Would they be, would they take the place, would they be an alternate or would they be an additional person on the,
they would actually count as an additional vote. So it would be an additional.
so they could, in like cases like here, they could, their presence would be contributing to a quorum.
Correct.
Okay.
We have had it on our last two agendas at Peddle feedback and have not had any volunteers. So we're just keeping it on as a standing item until someone steps up.
I'll add for Healdsburg. I'm not aware that anyone has been a citizen rep, at least in the last 5 years since I've been with Healdsburg. And there is currently not a move to do so.
Okay. Thanks for those updates. Encourage all the other jurisdictions to try to get a citizen rep to participate. It's important. Okay, moving on to, well, actually, I'll say, are there anybody else that would like to make public comments for anything not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to item 4 then, approval of the meeting notes from March 28th. Anyone who was here that participated in that meeting can make a motion approving the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Any objections? Seeing none, minutes are approved. Let's move on to item 5, which is the draft Sonoma County Trail entry exit design alternatives. We have somebody from Regional Parks here.
No, we do not. So I could just briefly speak to this and then open it up for comment, if that's all right. So in your agenda packet, starting on page 7, is a letter and memo from W-Trans, who's working with the County Regional Parks Department on Class 1 trail entry and exit design standards. This memo went out to all the jurisdictions within the county, and we're encouraging to everyone to bring this item to their respective bicycle advisory boards. And so we're bringing this here as well, but wanted to make sure that everybody has a chance to review it. W-Trans is soliciting feedback on these design standards by July 31st. And really, you know, the intention in sharing this for my read of the memo is to, you know, encourage consistency within the different jurisdictions and at jurisdictional boundaries with entry and exit designs for Class 1 trails. So I know this is, you know, this has been a topic that has come up quite a bit. And you know, over the last year or so, following a bicycle crash with a bollard. And so, you know, there's been some serious looks at you know, what type of design is provides the safety and as well as the purpose of the bollards to keep vehicle traffic off of the trails. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at this. You know, we can certainly collect feedback through this committee, but I anticipate that some of you have, brought this to your respective bicycle advisory boards as well.
I'll speak on this. It's kind of unfortunate in Katati because we just recently, our bollards were hideous looking. Up until about a year ago, we replaced all our bollards as part of our bike and pedestrian wayfinding project with these really nice, beautiful wooden ones, which are impossible to see at night, I'm sure. So the timing is terrible because, in my opinion, this whole issue is like, it's a solution looking for a problem. I just don't, I talked to our folks and nobody, we could think of one incident where somebody actually trying to outrun the police drove down the bike trail and actually took out a bollard in the process of doing that. So it didn't discourage them anyway. They're just simply not necessary, I don't think, and I think the recommendations of signing it, not having the bollards and only inserting the bollards or the gates when you have a known problem makes the most sense. Place that we visit back east has a very, very popular bike trail that runs all along from Providence, Rhode Island, all the way down to the tip of Newport, or actually into Bristol. And it's a long, long trail. And I actually went and looked at every intersection on that. And there's not a single bollard along any of it. And there's some high traffic streets that intersect with it. And as far as I know, it's not a problem at all. So I just don't, I like the recommendations in the report. Now, whether I can convince our city council and public works to get rid of something I just spent a chunk of money on, I don't think.
I'll add for Healdsburg, we've been looking at this as well. And we appreciate the county working with W-Trans to prepare this guidance memo. We think it is good to coordinate throughout the county on this and pass the county. We are probably looking at removing bollards. You've been to Healdsburg and you've been on the Foss Creek Trail. That path has 3 bollards basically at every entry and exit point. So we're probably looking at taking out 2 of the 3, keeping the center bollard with the striping around it. I believe that was one of the recommendations in the W-Trans report. What we'll probably be doing is providing comments on this back to SCTA and then kind of working with the same timeline with our council and hoping to get approval to do the removal and move forward with that project.
So we in Runner Park pulled our bollards, I want to say 4 months ago. We pulled like 95% of them. I think we have 2 left in the city that are ours. And we haven't had any police issues with people driving on the pathways or people using, like, I think it might have been Healdsburg's like case where a homeless person used like their truck to transport stuff. But we haven't had any issues to date. During the floods, some of our people notice, or floods, not really that bad Runner Park, but we had some people notice occasional like cars just driving on the creek paths for adventure or something, but it wasn't high speed, or they just said they're looky-loos driving around. And that's from our like public works field staff. So
You did have cars on the bike trails along the creeks.
we've had a couple, but it hasn't been like high speed or dangerous. It's just been looky-loos kind of thing.
I guess I'll share that we have a active work order to remove all of our bollards on the Lynch Creek Trail, which is our primary crosstown multi-use pathway. And moving forward, we're definitely going to take advantage of Sonoma County Regional Parks efforts to standardize and follow their lead. I am curious if folks have concerns about the use of these flexible posts in locations where you're going to have a lot of maintenance vehicle access. We do have some trailheads where we have a lot of maintenance vehicles and in some cases police vehicles accessing the trails, and they'll be driving over these flexible bollards repeatedly, which I assume that over time will be an issue. But I'm curious if anyone else is talked about that or thought about that.
I think the biggest problem is more hitting handlebars on
Right.
those bollards, even if they're flexible, it's gonna take somebody down. And that's one of the issues. I mean, there are so many accidents you can't believe.
That's what our BPAC was mostly concerned with, even with like flexible bollards, because.
Yeah.
It's handlebars, that's what their big concern is, not necessarily hitting it straight on.
It's the brake handle first, or it hooks the brake handle and then person goes down. I would just say in Roder Park the other day, I did see a car on the path and it by the smart track, and it was a smart car. And I don't think I've seen one in 2 years, so I was really surprised.
Yeah, occasionally they drive it for maintenance
Yeah.
purposes.
I think the only other thing, Joe, that came up, Regional Parks brought this to the unincorporated committee a few months ago. And there was concern from certain individuals that the gates, if those were utilized, they could obstruct access for certain types of bikes like recumbents or for wheelchair users or persons with disabilities. So it was, I recall that there was a strong opposition to use of gates.
And it looks like they are not recommending gates, right? Even though they're included in the report. It's
Well, there's a summary of alternatives at the end, which
right.
includes gates. And so I think it's, Regional Parks is looking at a case by case basis.
Okay.
And for those most problem areas, gates could be a consideration, but it should be a last resort. I think
Right.
in the committee's opinion for those reasons.
One recommendation that I was a little, I guess you can apply it, but only in very specific circumstances, was where you approach and then it splits widely. And if you were, maybe if that was team at the end of the road, that might make sense, but essentially you're creating two mid-block crossings, it seemed like, and that one seemed like that could be problematic or only useful in very specific situations. The one that seemed, there was also a split, but it was a narrow split. That one seemed like that'd probably be okay, but one was a much wider split.
Yeah.
Exactly, that imagery there. And that was my only thought. Otherwise, I thought the recommendations were good.
Okay. Well, so this isn't an action item, just for discussion purposes. And they should get comments to you, Dana, and you'll forward them to Regional Park.
We can pass along the recording of the discussion and then if people have specific comments that they would like to share, they should actually send them directly to WTRAN. So in the memo, there's instructions on that to get Steve Weinberger comments by July 31st, and his contact information is in the memo.
Okay. Anything else from folks online or in the room? Okay. Good discussion, thank you. So moving on to item 6, complete streets checklist.
All right, so we have 2 complete streets checklists that are action items for today. We brought these to this committee at our last meeting, which was in late March with the Transportation Development Act Article 3 program of projects. These 2 checklists And so that was just for notice and review, and we're bringing them back today for action. As a reminder, MTC requires complete streets checklist to be filled out and approved by the countywide Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for any project funding or any funding for projects that total over $250,000. These two projects are asking for matching funds in smaller amounts, but since the project totals exceed that threshold, we do need to approve them. So the first project, first complete streets checklist in your agenda packet, starting on page 21, is for the Crocker Bridge bike and pedestrian passage. And so I guess we can take any, if there aren't any comments, we have not received any by email. But if anybody has any comments on the complete streets checklist for that project, we can take them now.
I can hear a pin drop. That must be a great project. Now, I can say that it was brought to our committee, the unincorporated committee back in February. When they approved the TD Article 3 funding plan. And they approved this project. And it basically would provide a class 1 separated bridge adjacent to Crocker Bridge to the east of the rail solutions.
So look for a motion on this.
So for this one,
Yeah, let's do one at a time.
I'll move to approve it.
I'll second. Thank you.
Okay, so
Before we approve. Okay, there's public comment.
before we approve,
Before we approve.
ask if there's public
Yeah.
comment. Okay. Any public comment? Hearing none, then we don't have to go to a roll call.
No roll call, no, because we have a quorum in person.
Okay, so hearing no objections, that's approved.
Okay.
And go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, and so the next checklist that is in your agenda packet is for the matching funding for the Bodega Bay Bike and Pedestrian Trail, Coastal North Harbor. And the same as the previous checklist, we did bring this to the CBPAC for review in March and are looking for any comments and an action on this today. And similarly, we have not received any comments by email.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, any public comments?
Great project.
Great project, yeah. It'll connect there's already an existing class 1. Can't remember the name of the cross street, but it's between Salmon Creek.
It's up there at
Beach,
the community center there,
and the bell tower.
Right.
Yeah.
and then this will take you down to the harbor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it kind of extends an existing class 1 trail in that area. So, we also approved it at our February unincorporated bike and pedestrian advisory committee. Any other public comments?
Could I make a quick comment or question? Chris from Bikeable Santa Rosa.
Sure.
A number of folks in the room have heard me talk about this before, so I apologize for beating a dead horse, but I'm still slightly confused about process. on how we treat the complete streets checklists, because in both of these examples, at the end of the checklist, when it asks if this checklist has been reviewed by a city or county BPAC, it cites the unincorporated committee, as you called it, Steve, but the other county BPAC. And so, and that makes sense. So it's saying it's already been approved by that. When I inquired about this 2 months ago, I was told that SCTA's practice is to also look at the complete streets checklists for any projects that are requesting SCTA funding. So I sort of assumed that's why it was coming here, but I'm sort of curious about what are we approving today? Because for purposes of submitting these checklists to MTC, the checklist says it's already been approved by the other county board. So I know this is really tedious, but it just would be really helpful to understand who's approving what and for whom.
Yeah, I guess a point of clarification on my part is that the unincorporated committee did not approve the complete streets checklist. Rather, they approved the funding plan that included TDA Article 3 funds for the project.
Yeah, and that makes sense based on what I understood or how it appeared on the agenda for you guys in February. So maybe for purposes of these checklists going back to NTC, it needs to say similar to what it was on the Santa Rosa checklist that came up 2 months ago, that it's actually this committee that is approving the checklist before it goes to NTC. To be clear, as I read the complete streets policy from MTC, it says the checklist needs to be reviewed by a city or county BPAC, not the project.
So Dana, so do we need clarification in your staff report? Is that what is needed?
You know, my read on MTC's policy is that it needs to go to the countywide CBPAC, which is, you know, our practice. And you know, I mean, I think it's, so that's why we bring it here. Also the TDA Article 3 funding comes through SCTA. And so we do, you know, we before we submit the program of projects, we are asking to approve the checklists and then submit those with the package for the project funding.
So
if that's the case, then these checklists should read that this committee has reviewed and approved the checklist, not the other county board.
That may have been a, you know,
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I
You're
see.
saying under item
Number
7, BPAC review. Yeah, the response, for example, I'm looking at page 4 of 8 for the Crocker Street Bridge. The response is that it was brought to the Sonoma County Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, the unincorporated committee. But we, in fact, we didn't review the checklist.
yeah, I think you could see that from the response that the project funding, like you said, Stephen, was reviewed by the county's BPAC. But the checklist is being reviewed by this BPAC.
So then should the motion be amended to have request that they amend that response to say that it's been reviewed by this body, the checklist? It seems like it should. Or it goes back to the unincorporated committee for a checklist review.
No, I think they just need to amend the response to put the date from today. That it was reviewed by this countywide committee.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that this, you know, since we are putting in the agenda packet before it's been reviewed, this will be an ongoing, you know, correction that needs to be made after the checklists have been reviewed. before being finalized.
And can you just attach the minutes with the action to the checklist and submitted, just to show that it's been.
Yeah, I mean, I think we may want to send it with a note saying that, when it was approved. I mean, I think maybe moving forward, a good practice could be to have the date that it's intended to come to this committee for approval.
The ones that we looked at a couple months ago, like Petaluma's, they did do that. So I would look back at how they responded to that particular question. And because I think they answered it pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks for pointing that out. Make the necessary revisions. Okay. That's it for item 6, correct? So item 7 is planning, MTC Plan Bay Area 2050 scheduling process.
Yeah, I can provide a brief update on the regional transportation plan. So many of you are familiar with Plan Bay Area. Our last Plan Bay Area was adopted back in October of 2021, so a few years ago. The regional transportation plan includes a number of things, different policies governing regional planning activities, funding estimates, and a long list of regional transportation projects. So they're kicking off that process again now. So I just wanted to provide kind of a timeline on what they're looking at this time around. So MPC has indicated that they're looking to do a limited update this time around. So we'll see how much that grows. But right now they're planning on mostly focusing on the projects and financial projection and doing some limited analysis. There are a few associated planning efforts also ongoing at this time that'll be feeding in and kind of weaving into the Plan Bay Area process. One is Transit 2050 Plus, where they're taking a closer look at regional financially constrained transit networks. So in all the analysis and performance measurement will be occurring as part of that process. They're also looking at climate adaptation projects this time around, and also evaluating freeway pricing strategies. So they're doing a few different things here this time around as well. So looking at schedule right now, they've opened up the priority development area or PDA update process. So new PDAs can be submitted, or PDA boundary changes can be made to existing PDAs. That's open through July 31st of this year. There are a number of reasons to have PDAs adopted. There are a lot of different funding programs, technical funding funds available to help plan PDAs and access other transportation planning funding. This summer, they're going to be working on updating local revenue estimates and updating descriptions for major projects in the RTP. So the only major project we have in the RTP at this time is the Sonoma County Transit Headway Enhancement Project. So we're working with transit providers right now to kind of update their assumptions, the financial estimates, cost estimates, and project descriptions. This fall, there'll be a window to nominate new major regionally significant projects, and these are projects that have a cost of over $250 million. So they're really big projects. In general, most projects here in Sonoma County, we've been able to put into different programmatic categories. Throughout this time, this fall and next spring, they'll be doing some project evaluation as part of Transit 2050 Plus. So I can provide some updates on that when that's happening. Over the winter, we'll have a chance to take a look at those programmatic categories, looking at projects in our CDP and other projects, and coming up with the costs for those. Next summer, MPC will be adopting a financially constrained project list, and they hope to adopt in 2025. So after they adopt that financially constrained project list, they need to do the EIR or environmental review for the plan. And then after that, they can adopt. So that's the schedule right now. So as we get more information and new tasks pop up, I can bring information back to this group in our release as well. Yeah, just kicking off right now.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Any questions for Chris?
Chris, I guess, do we need to go back and look at the projects that were included in the CTP?
Not right now.
Okay,
Yeah, so we'll be looking at updating our CTP.
Yeah.
Sometime soon, so still scoping that out, but looking to kick that off probably towards the end of this year, early next year. So
when you just adopted it though, didn't you, just like a year ago?
a couple years ago.
Was it already been?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's snuck up on us, so. Well, yeah, we'll let you know when we're moving towards that.
Any other questions about Plan Bay Area 2050? Hearing none, let's move on to the countywide active transportation plan.
All right, so I have some updates for the group. So our board approved a contract with Fair and Peers to for the countywide active transportation plan, which also includes updates to 7 local jurisdiction plans. And we just sent out a notice to proceed and have a kickoff meeting with SCTA staff scheduled for the end of this month. And we are going to schedule a kickoff meeting with all of the participating jurisdiction staff for early to mid-June. So actually after this meeting, I just got some dates aligned with our consulting team, and I'll be sending out a doodle poll to try to lock down that date. So that will be a virtual meeting. Moving forward, we will, try to align major milestone updates with this committee so that our consultants can facilitate the development of the plan through this committee and on a schedule everybody's used to. But we just want to make sure that we meet before the next CBPAC in late July to go over roles and responsibilities and communication protocols, as well as the schedule. So just wanted to give everyone who's involved in that a heads up that scheduling is coming out very soon. And at that point, we'll have a kind of a better schedule of when we're anticipating milestone updates to CBPAC as well. I'll talk a little bit about the scope of work. The scope of work is attached to the staff report. There's a link to it. And all of the items that were identified in the Caltrans grant are covered in the basic scope of work. And we had kind of since then we thought about some additional deliverables that we included in the RFP as optional tasks. So the way the contract is set up is that there are some optional tasks that would require some additional funding and additional scoping with the consultant team. So those are a robust sidewalk gap analysis for the participating jurisdictions, which is kind of going beyond the basic pedestrian planning and kind of recommendations for where there are sidewalk gaps. This is more of a data-driven analysis of those sidewalk gaps. And so we would, if jurisdictions that are participating would like to have that work done, we would do some scoping with the consulting team and would likely need contributions from the local jurisdictions to cover those costs. And there's a range kind of depending on the size of the jurisdiction and the scope of the sidewalk gap analyses. So in some larger jurisdictions, they may really want to focus on just certain areas, certain nodes for walking. And so the the cost range that we were given is between 5,000 to 18,000 roughly per jurisdiction. So I think as we start developing the plan, I think that this will be something that can be considered by the jurisdictions. And then the other optional task would be for the jurisdictions that are not participating in local plan updates. So that's have been, doing are at different stages in the process of developing their plan. So that's Santa Rosa, Windsor, and Petaluma. If there were a desire for any of those jurisdictions to work with our consulting team on updating their planned project list, the consulting team has provided a cost to do that at $13,380 per jurisdiction. So that's optional as well, if that's desired by any of those three jurisdictions. Additionally, I just want to let everyone know that we, over the last 6 months or so, we've collected updates to the existing bicycle facilities, and integrated those updates into our countywide map. And Adam has just gotten that live on our website. So there's a link in the staff report to the page with the countywide map. The planned facilities will be updated through this countywide plan process, but the existing facilities we wanted to have teed up as close to real time as we could when our consulting team starts. So I encourage everyone to take a look at that map and just make sure that nothing stands out and that the updates that you've provided to us are look correct in there. And I think that is those are all my updates. Happy to take any questions anybody might have.
Contracts are signed, everybody's doing good.
Contracts being routed, but we did provide a notice to proceed because we were cutting it close with our meeting. And then I'd love to be able to work on preparing for the meeting. So.
Hi, Dana. I wanted to ask you if you could include me on the invitation for the kickoff meeting with Fair and Peers.
Absolutely. I'll send that over to you after this meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Dana, I'm not sure I understood the first part of your report. Are you lining up Fair and Peers to come to each of the participating CBPAC committees?
Not necessarily to each one, but as we do have kind of certain milestones in the planning process, we will try to align it with this committees. Since really the countywide plan, I think all jurisdictions should be involved in some way, right? Whether their jurisdiction plans are being updated separately, they'll ultimately become part of the countywide plan. And then, majority of the jurisdictions are actually participating in their local updates, plan updates as well. So we will try as much as possible to coordinate, to do the coordination with the consulting team around CBPAC meetings moving forward. There definitely may be times where we need to meet separately, but as much as we can, we'll try to coordinate that. And this, this committee only meets every other month, so there may be times where we need to have, yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Is there any info you'd like us to pass on around timing of community engagement or level of community engagement that will be involved?
Absolutely, there will be, and I think that's probably at our next CBPAC meeting, we'll have a more detailed schedule on with the community engagement will happen and
Okay,
we'll start sharing that out.
sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks for that update, Dana. Any other comments or questions? In the room or online? Hearing none, and let's move on to item 8, updates. Bike month updates. See, Eris is online. Hi, Eris.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How'd bike month go?
So, bike month and bike to work day. This was the first time really since COVID that we kind of returned to or attempted to a lot of the stuff that we did for bike to work day in the before times. We had 9 Energizer stations on bike to work day last week and counted about 600 bikes visiting those stations. Now, in the before times, we would have 24 stations all around the county. Many of our previous partners and sponsors declined to participate this year. So, we're really just dealing with a whole different landscape of everything. But everyone who showed up was great. We also did had an online people could pledge to ride. Whether they showed up on that day or not, pledged to ride in May, or even if not on bike to work day. And we also attempted to run a little challenge. One of the things that MTC did not provide for us, which we used to do in the before times, was some kind of area-wide team challenge gamification thing where people could make teams at their companies and count up their miles and everything. And we've really felt the lack of that. We've tried to do our own and didn't quite get the same leverage because the platform we were using did not allow for teams. So there's a small, hardy group of people rapidly competing against each other, but it's really small. And I know that one of the things that I've heard over the years talking to cyclists is how many people will say, yeah, I never used to ride a bike until, bike to work day and my coworkers, drug me on this team and now they're active cyclists. So that's something we're really hoping we can shift for next year to be able to get that sort of challenge going and get more outreach to businesses and get more of that team thing going. But then of course there's also the thing of biking to work. I mean, how many offices are people still working every day? So everything's different than it was before. But we also had a pre-bike to work day clinic that was well attended. So towards the end of April, which you already do, so people can come and kind of get their bike tuned up and talk about routes and all of that. And then we're having a little sort of post bike month celebration with some on June 2nd. And we are giving away a couple of bikes and some other prizes. Folks who participated in various ways get entry into the drawing for that. And the bikes were very generously donated by Mike's Bikes. So that'll be coming up in another week or two, but things have been going well. I would love to hear any of your observations if any of you were out and about and saw any of the activities going on.
I could comment on that. City of Santa Rosa, we sponsored it.
I can't hear you at all. Can you get closer to the mic, please?
The City of Santa Rosa sponsored an energizing station, and we had like 80 to 90 participants that showed up, which is pretty awesome. It was a fun event. And then I realized that when I got back to my team, there was more little divisions within the city that would like to participate. So hopefully next year we can grow this thing and get more people out on their bikes riding to work.
See, I know Bjorn, you were participating with the City of Petaluma.
Yeah, thanks, Eris. Thanks to you and your team for putting on a great event as always. We had a station on the Lynch Creek Trail and saw lots of people biking that morning, all ages. And I was definitely taken aback by the number of e-bikes and even electric scooters we saw on the trail that morning. No one was riding too fast or riding in an unsafe manner, so that was good to see. But I would guess we had more e-bikes than non-e-bikes. Yeah, didn't take a formal count, but yeah.
I was just gonna add, it was a really fun event. I stopped by the Santa Rosa station in the morning. It was really active, and a lot of good energy there. But my husband rode to work that day as well. And since Alexander mentioned that the city of Santa Rosa is interested in maybe expanding and maybe regional parks is there, he mentioned that he would have loved to see a station at a trailhead in Santa Rosa. Just so many people going in and out of the trails there. And he was like, that, you know, that's where I mean, it probably would have been hard to plan this year because of the encampments that were happening up until right before bike to work day. But just a suggestion from a citizen that he wanted me to pass on.
Thanks. And I know people, he's not the first one to mention that, oh, why didn't we have one at, you know, one of the entrances to the Dorota Trail or all that? And you're right, we had the encampment issue. And Oliver's Market was the sponsor who always used to do that station, and they declined to participate this year. So we'll hopefully get that again. That's one of the things in our sort of debrief afterward we've been talking about is where to have the stations where they make sense given the routes that people actually ride. So for example, one jurisdiction, so not to, you know, call anybody out, but Katati's station was right in La Plaza Park, and unfortunately there was construction going on that day, so it was kind of hard to get to. But even when it's not, that's not a main way that people ride. If I was riding, when I ride, I never ride through the park. I'm going different routes because that's kind of a major intersection. So one of the things that's something we want to think of for next year is working with our sponsors and partners to make sure that we locate things in a way that makes sense given where people are more likely to ride.
Hey, any, thanks for that update, Eris and Christina. Any other jurisdictions have updates on happenings in their areas on Bike to Work Day? I just wanted to thank the Bike Coalition again for taking the lead. You always do a great job. And I was happy to see that I think just about every jurisdiction in the county had an Energizer station, which this year at least, correct me if I'm wrong, but in years past, I know when I've been involved, it's been hard to get some of the smaller jurisdictions with at least one Energizer station. So when I looked at the map, I saw Energizer in at least every jurisdiction throughout the county. So that looked really good.
Yeah, what we had done with that, Stephen, is we you know, it's always hard, especially in the smaller jurisdictions, you know, to get the people to staff and do that whole thing. So what we actually did in some of those jurisdictions, like in Cloverdale, Healdsburg, no, we had a station in Sonoma, but in several other places, is we partnered with bike shops and got the bags to them to give out. So they didn't necessarily set it up as a station, but there was a place there that folks could go and participate. So yeah, we are happy to have those partnerships as well. And then we had a great happy hour at Cougar Brewing afterwards. So y'all missed out on that one.
Okay, anybody else? Questions or comments about Bike Month? We're almost done. In a couple days. Keep riding. So let's.
Can I add a quick comment?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to echo and say thanks to the Bike Coalition and to staff as well for great events in Santa Rosa where I was. And I really think it was a huge success, more than I expected, honestly. just after the pandemic. And obviously Bike Month is ending, but I hope all of you are noticing, as I am, how many more people are on bikes every day besides just bike to work day. Like, I think there's a really visible change in the last year where I'm spending time. And just to say, obviously, we should keep going. We'd hate for those folks to realize that they only want to do it on certain times a year. So let's keep providing infrastructure and keep them coming out.
Stephen, are we doing the roundtable updates now, or is it just jurisdictions doing updates? Sorry.
Segue, Christine. I don't know how you do that sometimes. But
Okay.
that's next on the agenda,
Okay.
but I'll leave it open for anybody else that wants to make any other comments about Bike Month. I think we've exhausted that topic at this point. So why don't we move on to the next agenda item, which is roundtable updates. I hate to pick on you, but you're closest to me to my left.
So it's construction time in Cotati right now. So if you go through Cotati, you'll see a lot of things happening for bike and ped. A lot of the curb ramps are being improved and crosswalk enhancements are going in. Lighting in front of City Hall. We've had a lot of complaints about the lighting and the crosswalks there. Myrtle Avenue is finally going to get its class 2 bike trail there. It's a full reclamation, full depth reclamation. So that street's getting reconstructed and the class 2 bike lane will finally go in. It's been on our project list and as part of our bike and ped master plan since 2014 at least. And there's some other projects coming up, which I can't recall right now, but anyway, it's nice to actually see things getting done. So there is a lot of construction going on, but it's all, a lot of it is bike and ped focus, so, or is getting incorporated into it. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Move on to Santa Rosa.
Yeah. Just so you can hear me. We're actually actively starting to install bike parking, so bike racks in different locations within the CBD, so Central Business District. So that's going to be an ongoing project, kind of, filler work for some of our crews. And then also we have slurry projects coming up where we've updated or, changed the classifications from either a class 2 bike lane to a buffered bike lane or a cycle track, or where places where there isn't any bike lanes at all, we're adding bike lanes, class 2s or a cycle track. And that's in and around the downtown area, Mendocino Avenue, 4th Street, Santa Rosa Avenue, from Maple to 1st Street, also 1st Street, from Santa Rosa Avenue to South A. So various locations. So that's going to be happening close around like implementation, like July, late June. So yeah, a lot of good projects out there.
Good.
My name's Michael Harrigan. I'm just joined the City of Healdsburg Department of Public Works as a project manager. I'll be taking over for Kurt starting the upcoming meeting. I'm just here today as like a fly on the wall or a guy in a chair.
Okay.
So lots going on in Petaluma. I think the most exciting news, our council authorized our city manager to award the design contract for a new movable drawbridge over the Caulfield Lane extension. So that'll connect Caulfield Lane with the Crystal Lane Petaluma Boulevard South roundabout, kind of at the south end of town. Very exciting, long time in the works. That's about a $6 million design, $6 million design contract, and is expected to take about 2 years and get through all of the environmental review and permitting as well. So very exciting that that project is moving forward. And then the other, we're working on a lot of different quick build projects to hopefully deliver this summer, including a neighborhood greenway. Was formerly called a bike boulevard, but we've heard from the community that they want these to be called neighborhood greenways, not bike boulevards. And also some other traffic calming and corridor improvements, in addition to some of the several paving projects that we have underway. And we also are developing and probably launching by the end of the month, what we're calling a Safe Streets nomination program. We've been getting a lot of requests for traffic calming and safety improvements from neighborhood groups and residents. So in response to that, we've developed some scoring criteria that we're going to apply to basically use to create a transparent process through which we evaluate all these requests that we get, and then move forward with a handful of quick build projects each year based on the scoring. So happy to share an update on that as that gets fleshed out. We are, I have been in touch with Laurel about presenting on that at the next Vision Zero, Countywide Vision Zero meeting. So would be happy to provide the same update to this group if you'd like to learn more. Thanks.
I just have a question for CTA, and that is there any indication when they will have the Novato Petaluma bike path open for cyclists at least? It's pretty popular and it's cut off and there is absolutely no word, and there's no way you can get through now, I know, but is there any way that this county can find out what if progress is going to be? It would be useful.
So is it temporarily closed due to the 101 construction through Marine?
Well, the PG&E pipeline that ruptured in the water line, and there, I don't know if you've seen it, but the buckling of the road is rather impressive. You can still see the buckles and it's like 6 to 8 feet in the air where this road went up. But it's closed. They have watch people over there, so they don't want anybody going through.
So that's just south of Poly. Is that where it is?
Yeah, it's, where Bucks.
Yeah,
It's in that area, so. But that was a really big group of people that were using it. I mean, there were commuters for work. I know a lot of people who rode bicycles from Novato to the Kaiser facility. They're doctors and nurses. And it's gone. So maybe there's a little push that we can get some help in South County. It would be good. That's it.
Okay. I don't think we have anyone from our programming projects team still on, but I could see if they have any more information.
So for Healdsburg, similar to the other agencies, we've got quite a bit of work going on. We've got some street restoration work that's been happening, along with some restriping, also additions of crosswalks throughout the downtown area that weren't previously there before. We've been working with representatives from the Earl Baum Center for the Blind on a number of locations, a number of routes in Healdsburg. It's going well. We also are just about finished up with our curb ramp project. I think we replaced 38 curb ramps in Healdsburg where they were either not ADA compliant or there weren't any ramps. So for Healdsburg, that's a pretty big improvement. And then I just wanted to echo what Bjorn said, that I think it's great that the Caulfield project's going through. I started on that project about 20 years ago. Very early on I was involved, so I'm happy to hear that that's moving forward. That's it.
Runner Park, we're just closing out a quick strike project we did for 12 mid-block crossings that currently exist. We added RRFBs and did a few curb ramp replacements. And then we're currently in design for pathway repaves of old like AC pathways. With Portland cement at 3 sections of the Heinbach Creek path, so those were pretty troublesome for road bike users, so our BPAC seems very happy about it.
So for the county of Sonoma, we've just gone through another several pavement preservation projects, repaving various roads throughout the county. One of the most exciting ones, in my opinion, is finally getting some class 2 bike lanes on River Road. And that's roughly between Hacienda and downtown Guerneville. It's about a 5-mile section. They're not out there yet. They've finished repaving. They're going to go back out for a change order to stripe and sign it. So that's a pretty good chunk in the West County on River Road. Good to see. That's all I've got to report for the county at this point.
And you could see if SCBC and Caltrans want to give updates.
Sure. Any updates from the Bike Coalition? Christina, you've been very patient.
I can do an update. I don't know if Emily or Eris has anything else to add, but for Safer to School, we had our Bike to School Day event the first week of May. Unfortunately, it was a rainy day, so participation was not high. However, we noticed that schools that had bike trains, organized bike trains, still did really well. Like with Bike to School Day, you know, there was a school in Petaluma that had 45 kids bike to school. Their norm was like, 15 or something like that. So, people will ride in the rain when they have some motivation to do it, like a group. So we really want to kind of really work on getting more bike trains and more people to, we have a lot of walking school buses, but bike trains are a bit harder to get started. But we've been really working on that the past couple of years and want to work on that more. We have family bike workshops coming up in June. We have one in Petaluma, June 24th, Saturday. And I will send that to you, Bjorn, if I haven't already, and also to the communications person at the city, which I'm blanking on her name at this moment. But that one is going to have free helmets for all registered participants. The CHP has agreed to support us with our next 2 family bike workshops. So the one in Petaluma in June, and then we have one in August in Windsor. So anyone that registers can get a free helmet if they need one, which is great. We also have a teen workshop that's coming up. If any of you have teens or have contacts with people that have teens, we have a Drive Your Bike teen workshop in partnership with CHOPS. That's happening on Thursday, June 22nd from 1 to 3:30. Your teen does have to register through CHOPS. It's free. All registered teens will receive either a free bike lock or a free helmet. They get to pick one or the other. There's going to be snacks. And we are promoting it through all our middle school partners and through CHOPS. So any jurisdiction that wants to promote that, let me know. I will send you the info, or maybe I'll do that either way. Another thing, just so you are all aware, I think I emailed many of you, but we are distributing Safe Routes to School. We're calling a Safe Streets for All parents survey. We're encouraging parents who drive, walk, bike, scooter, skate, all modes of transportation to take the survey, so that we can identify what the barriers are to walking and bicycling and what their behavior is, for walking and bicycling. I want to thank Bjorn for supporting me in putting together the actual survey. We're not using the National Center for Safe Routes to School survey anymore. We don't have to. It's not a good survey. This one allows us to ask questions that are more targeted, and hopefully we'll be able to pass on that information to each jurisdiction when we are done collecting information. So I have survey links and blurbs that I have already shared with most jurisdictions. If not, if I haven't shared it with you, I will be. And any assistance getting that survey out to the public. Again, we have shared it with schools and school districts who have been sharing it, but people need to see things, something like 7 times to actually act on it. And with an online survey, it's probably 20 times. So just any support we can get with sharing that would be great. And that's it, but for now.
Okay, thanks, Christina. And there's someone from Orlando from Caltrans. Do you have anything to report?
Hi, I have no updates today.
Okay.
Oh, one other thing about Kentucky, we adopted the Vision Zero plan at City Council a couple weeks ago. So we'll now start incorporating those action items into the things that we did. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've hit just about everybody with the roundtable updates. Let's move on to shared micromobility updates.
I'll provide a brief update for the regional program. We have, we're bringing a revised RFP to our board in June to solicit a new proposals for a regional bike share and micromobility program in Sonoma and Marin County. So really hoping that we get some good proposals coming in, and look forward to working on that late summer and fall on the procurement.
Did you say that RFP went out?
No, it's going to our board
Oh,
June 12th. So
June.
as long as they give it their blessing, it will go out immediately after that.
So it's been a while since I've been here. Is it
Yeah.
tied to the smart one at all?
So it may have been called the Smart Bike Share Program at some point, because the kind of vision when we first applied for the grant was to really provide first and last mile connections between smart stations and other major destinations. So it's likely the same program. Yeah. We have really, because the state of the shared micromobility industry is has been very unstable. We've really changed our RFP to be a lot more flexible. So not requiring that it be at every smart station and in every city along the smart corridor. But, we've also explained in the RFP that we've done all this work in those jurisdictions and, basically vetted locations for stations and started permitting processes. So all of that would be available for a new contractor coming in.
What about expanding it north to Windsor and Healdsburg?
Yeah, so that's definitely available. I mean, if an operator comes in and with a proposal that is in more cities, then basically anywhere within Sonoma and Marin, or we'll consider proposals with kind of any service area, and we'll look for the best one. So yeah, certainly open to that. But yeah, it'd be great to hear from Healdsburg on your program. And
Yeah, so Healdsburg, the bird bikes are back up and running. I don't know if anyone's been up there. I don't have numbers today, but we see them getting used. The program seems to be doing all right. I'd be happy, maybe Michael at the next meeting, to bring back kind of the numbers, what we're seeing. If that would be of use to this committee, probably. Yeah, just to see what kind of numbers we're talking about. But people seem to like them.
Did you say bird?
Bird.
Yeah.
The bird, the scooters,
Yeah,
they have the scooters and they have the bikes.
yeah,
The Windsor has the bird scooters, and I think other locations have the scooters.
yeah.
We got the bird bikes.
Okay. Just because from our standpoint, we have not had service in our area for scooters, so I'm just clarifying. And yeah, they've been trying to hire a fleet manager for past month now. It's I think they have a deadline of this weekend. If they can't get them to us, we will start looking for other options.
Yeah, we've heard about that as
Yeah.
well. So hopefully we can figure that out. And then regarding smarts, one of the things that we're gonna be doing is working with the smart team on, station issues, track issues, and when the train does come to town, after they get the funding, hopefully soon, how that would be working with, bike share and other micromobility. I think somebody had said they have a program. That's my understanding that they're gonna be working on that. I don't know if it's how vetted it is yet, but I think it's in the preliminary stages with their planning team, so we'll be working on them with that.
The majority of your riders just tourists that like are in town for whatever, and then they rent a bike and go out on a little kind of almost prepackaged little tour out to the wineries or something like that? Or are you seeing commuters actually use them or anything?
I don't know if we have data, but I think it is tourist driven. Some of the hotels have their own bike systems. Yes, mostly tourists, I would guess. I'll look and see if we can somehow track
Push that
that.
out.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we do. But
Do they track where those bikes go when they're rented, like the routes that people take?
I don't know if they do.
The
That's a good-
GIS
good
route?
question.
I know with the scooters, you can see where they're located.
I think you can see where they are, but I don't know if they track actual trips. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, well, yeah, like, because I think that would answer the question, like where are people actually riding their bikes?
Yeah, we'll find out. We can report back at the next meeting.
Yeah, you may be able to look at like monthly memberships and things like that and assume that the monthly memberships are locals, right?
Probably.
Right, as opposed to 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, anybody else with updates on micromobility in their jurisdictions? Okay, an update or discussion on bicycle and pedestrian counters?
Yeah, I can give a really quick update. Bjorn, Petaluma, thanks for getting those back in. So they're actually out in the field in Sonoma, so they're actually deploying them for the first time. So I know Travis Wagner over there is learning how to install them right now, so they'll be having them out in the field for about a month, and they'll be back in available to be used. So we still have a couple of bike tube counters available right now. If the user wants to use them. So. Yeah, it's a good time to count. If you want, I'm gonna spend a little more.
Free of charge.
Free, yeah.
Okay.
Just have to ask.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Moving on to item 9, other business comments or announcements. Your final chance to pipe up or anything else we haven't talked about yet. Okay, not hearing any. Not hearing any voices in the room or online, so our next meeting is scheduled for July 23rd. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, are they actually gonna be running? Where are you bridges along? Are they?
I don't think that they're what they typically done with bridges that have